Welcome into the Rowdy Studio. I'm Buzz Cutler, and this is Bassmasters, who is my co-host for now. I'm not
co-host. I'm your boss.
For now.
For now.
I'm not making any promises about tomorrow.
Well, that brings us to Mike Ford, does it not?
Who's no longer Denny Hamlin's crew chief, despite a tepid vote of confidence at Las Vegas over the weekend. Joe Gibbs Racing gave Mike Ford his walking papers yesterday, late yesterday afternoon, Tuesday afternoon. As of yet, they have made no announcements about his replacement.
Well, look, let's get a couple things straight here. They said we wanted to make sure he had time to find a new job, but the fact of the matter is, if that were the main consideration and you were just letting the guy go because you knew you didn't want to go down the road with him and you hadn't figured out a replacement yet, you would have done it at the end of the season, right? You wouldn't have waited a couple weeks.
Oh, sure.
Right? You would have known ahead of time. Don't you think this has to be, we've got a replacement in mind?
Well,
it feels to me like it's got to be, we've got a replacement in mind, and there is one obvious candidate.
And here's what we know. Joe Gibbs Racing did talk to Darian Grubb the day after the banquet in Las Vegas, and Darian Grubb did tour the race shop over at Joe Gibbs Racing. We do know that much.
Now, you might say to yourself, well, if they've already got Darian Grubb signed, sealed, and delivered, why wouldn't they just announce it?
Exactly.
And I think the answer to that question is, we're close enough to feel like we're going to get something done, but we don't have all the details ironed out yet. To me, it makes perfect sense for Darian Grubb to go to Denny Hamlin, a guy who's proven to be at least a championship contender. As far as Mike Ford goes, those guys, Denny and Mike Ford, achieved a lot together. You're taking a bit of a risk because you're saying we need another guy to get us over the top. It's a little bit different from Kevin Harvick's situation because they had a down year, but Denny Hamlin and Mike Ford has been a very solid combination.
Well, they had a down year too, Denny Hamlin and Mike Ford.
I feel good about Mike. I feel like I can win a championship with him. I feel like I can win multiple races. I've done it many, many times. It's just we just never got going this year. Our communication never was that great, and it seemed like we just panicked at times that we shouldn't have.
The Denny Hamlin, Mike Ford conflict, right? The fact that they weren't gelling isn't new. It has popped up repeatedly over their time together. It's not like this year was the first time that Denny Hamlin didn't, you know, fully support Mike Ford or intimated that there were some issues there. This has been an ongoing pattern in their relationship.
I don't think they agreed on everything. Right?
Right.
And I think that kind of came out at various times during the past few seasons. However, when you look at the level of achievement, I just think you have to be careful. I think it's not a move you can argue with. If Darian Grubb comes in there as a crew chief for Denny Hamlin, you certainly can't argue with that move.
You also can't argue.
I just don't think you would make the change unless you felt like you had a clearly better alternative.
I agree with that, but you also can't argue with the move if Denny Hamlin has in fact lost confidence in Mike Ford. Then it's a no-brainer. You have to make the move, regardless of whether you as a manager think Mike Ford is a great crew chief or not.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You know, if Denny Hamlin doesn't have confidence, that's all she wrote, man.
That's true. I think you're right.
And I think that's what happened here.
It could be, but I think it might have had more to do with who's available. Right?
Yes.
Now, I suppose you could see something like Greg Zipadelli moving over to Hamlin or something like that. That's not out of the question, certainly. But I think it had to do with, do we have, and this would be from Denny's perspective, too. Yeah. You know, because he knows what he's achieved with Mike Ford. He knows what he's achieved with Mike Ford. So,
I think you're right.
And he knows they had some magic that year that they probably should have won the title. Right. Right? They did that together, so he knows that. And I think unless he's convinced that they've got a better alternative, then he sticks with Mike Ford. So they've got somebody in mind. They have to.
I think Denny Hamlin, if he had gone into 2012 with Mike Ford, he would have been fine with that. But I don't think he fully...
Not fine with it if you could have a Darian Grubb who's just won a championship or a Greg Zipadelli who's won a couple in the past.
And if there's already sort of a break in that relationship, the Denny Hamlin-Mike Ford relationship, not a big enough break to say, okay, this is it, but enough of a break that, hey, if that greener pasture over there is available, I'm moving to that one.
And you always have to be careful about those greener pastures. You always have to be careful about that. And that way, I do think it's similar to Kevin Harvick's situation, in that Kevin Harvick felt like, hey, Shane Wilson, I've got a great relationship with him. I've achieved a lot with him in the Nationwide Series, and so this could be the guy to take me to the next step, and I'm going to be aggressive about it, and I'm going to take that step and go for it.
But I think in both cases, the driver felt perhaps it wasn't the guy. Maybe they had hit a glass ceiling, gone about as far as they were going to go with this particular guy, so if they wanted to get over that last little hump, they needed to make a change.
And that's where I think those two situations are, in fact, similar.
All right. For Bassmasters, I'm Buzz Cutler. Thanks for watching.
Rowdy.com. Say it like it is. Say what like it is?
Rowdy.com.